Ok, te doy el control. Actualmente estoy grabando la formación, pero espere un momentito y te doy el control de presentadora. Ok, ahora Aurelia tienes control. Puedes hacer la presentación de FEFI.
¿Estáis viendo la presentación?
No, tienes que compartir tu escritorio. En el menú, por encima, a mano de izquierda, puedes compartir tu escritorio. Share o compartir.
Compartir, vale, muy bien.
Sí. Y ahora necesitas la presentación.
Vale, pues ya está. Como empezamos un poco con retraso, tampoco voy a alargarla mucho. Voy a hacer para los que no me conocéis, soy Aurelia Andrés, la responsable de la unidad de recursos científicos de CECIT, y quería aprovechar para todos aquellos que no conocen CECIT, hacer una breve presentación de lo que es CECIT. CECIT es una fundación pública que nació en 2001 y cuya principal misión es impulsar la ciencia y la innovación, promoviendo su acercamiento en la sociedad. Los principales pilares en los que nos movemos es la racionalización, la transparencia y la eficiencia. Como os he comentado, yo pertenezco al Departamento de Gestión de la Información Científica y estamos organizados en dos grandes unidades. Gestión de recursos científicos, cuyo objetivo es facilitar la gestión eficaz de recursos científicos, y repositorios de acceso abierto, con la colaboración en la construcción de un sistema robusto de ciencia y tecnología. Dentro de mi unidad, los principales proyectos que llevamos es el Currículum Vitae normalizado, CVN, en el que lo que hemos querido hacer aquí es un formato, un estándar de Currículum Vitae, en la que todos los investigadores se puedan presentar a las convocatorias de ayudas del Ministerio bajo el mismo formato y con los mismos campos, de forma que no tengan que introducir una y otra vez este currículum para cada una de las distintas convocatorias. La idea es minimizar el esfuerzo de los investigadores en la realización de los trámites en la presentación de estas convocatorias. Y, por otro lado, llevamos también la gestión de las principales licencias nacionales de las principales bases de datos de WOC y de Scopus. Dentro de esta gestión, pues, organizamos cursos de formación como el de ahora, tanto de presencial como online. De forma que queremos dar a conocer al máximo estas bases de datos para que sean aprovechadas y se pueda obtener lo máximo de ellas. Con respecto a la Licencia Nacional de Web of Science, deciros que contamos ya con 329 instituciones, más de 8 millones de consultas a esta base de datos, y CECIT ofrece una serie de servicios adicionales a la licencia, como puede ser una cuenta de atención al usuario, que está disponible para todos vosotros en recursoscientíficos@cecit.es. Como os he comentado, organizamos un programa de formación tanto presencial como online, en la que queremos acercar estas bases de datos a la mayor parte de la comunidad investigadora, y existen también unos servicios específicos para los administradores. Como novedad en 2015, comentaros que Web of Science ha integrado dentro de su propia plataforma al Currículum Vitae normalizado, a CVN. ¿Y qué podemos obtener con esto? Pues podemos localizar todos nuestros artículos científicos que tenemos publicados en Web of Science, y podemos grabarlos y obtener los datos que hay en Web of Science en el formato estándar para presentar el currículum en CVN. Esto no quiere decir que saca tu currículum entero ya directamente de Web of Science, sino que puedes con el formato de CVN que sale de Web of Science y incorporarlo a tu currículum vitae, tanto el que sale de la institución o, si no, a través del editor de CECIT, cvn.cecit.es/editor, donde ofrecemos la opción de poder elaborar tu currículum con esta información y adicionalmente con otra información que se le pueda ir añadiendo para enriquecerlo. Y nada más, con esto ya doy paso al formador para que empiece ya directamente con el curso de formación de APIs.
Ok, gracias Aurelia. Ok, entonces ahora vamos a continuar con la presentación de Thomson Reuters sobre los APIs de Web of Science. La presentación va a hacerlo mi compañero Rob de los Estados Unidos, y lo va a hacer en inglés, ¿ok? Pero si necesitáis ayuda con algo, pues puedo traducir, si puedo, en español, pero la presentación se dará en inglés. Okay, right, okay, Rob, I'm just about to give you the control. Let me just turn off the mic of Aurelia, and I'll make you the presenter. Okay, so Rob, you now have control, and you can continue with your presentation.
Sounds good. I am actually going to share my screen. Can everyone see this?
Yes, see, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for your time today. I apologize that I was a little bit late with the technical difficulties. And I also apologize that my Spanish is not very good. So I will have to do this in English, but I will try to enunciate well over the phone for you all. So again, welcome to a session on the Web of Science API services offered by Thomson Reuters. I won't spend too much time quickly reviewing what web services or what we APIs and what we typically refer to as web services, so that I can kind of get into the technical aspects and the information that you can retrieve using the Web of Science APIs. But just as an overview, the APIs, I think it's a good diagram at the bottom, that the APIs are allow for direct interaction with the client and the provider without going through the middleman, so to speak. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a little diagram at the bottom. That is the online workflow where the client will go to some sort of agent, in our case, webofscience.com, and communicate with that agent to pull data from the provider, whereas the API takes away that agent and allows you to go directly to the provider to provide all the data you need in a format that can then be translated into any format, any online service that you need. The Thomson Reuters web services are SOAP-based APIs, and they're used to access Web of Science content and search Web of Science content based on your subscription. Some of the most popular tools used by customers to access and search the Web of Science APIs include Python, SOAP UI, R programming language, which is a statistical-based programming language that has an API plugin client, and others. The APIs for the Web of Science are particularly valuable in that it allows you to get Web of Science data into your homegrown or partner evaluation systems, institutional and author profiling evaluation systems, and this is critical for your research evaluation. The Web of Science offers 5 API services, and these are Web of Science Lite, Web of Science Expanded, which is also known as Web Services Premium. Sorry, so we have Web Services Lite, Web Services Expanded, or Web Services Premium. We have a links article match retrieval. We also have a new Insights API, and we have a Sushi API, which is for downloading of counter-compliant usage reports. And I will go into each of these in more depth in the coming slides. Okay. So for the Web of Science, for all of our APIs, each API service requires an entitlement to grant access and then authentication to use. The authentication for 4 of the 5 APIs is mainly a username and password-based authentication system where in your request to gain access to the Web of Science data, you would pass a specified username and password. And when we entitle customers, we provide them with the username and password, and you would submit that in the request. For Sushi, though, on top of the certain credentials, we also have an IP-based authentication as well to that service. For the Web of Science web services, so this would be Web of Science Lite, Web of Science Expanded, and Links AMR, there is a set sequence of requests that you would make in order to get data. First, you would authenticate. Second, you would do your searching or finding your articles and downloading those articles from the Web of Science. And then thirdly, you would close the session. So those are the main sequences that you would on how to use the APIs. The service endpoints are listed here, and this I should mention that this documentation very soon, probably early in the new year in January 2016, the technical documentation for these services, Web Services Lite and Web Services Expanded, will be freely available online in the Web of Science Help portal. So you don't need to obviously memorize these endpoints because they will become available to you, but I can also work with our team over there to get this documentation to you of the endpoint URLs. The critical issue with the APIs is the session ID. So once you authenticate, you get a session ID. But there's some notes that you need to remember. The web service client that you use does not automatically pass the session identifier. So what you need to do is when you authenticate with us and you get that session ID, and I'll show you this in a live demo, that session ID you have to automatically make sure that you insert that session ID into the header for your subsequent searching and downloading of records. And because the session identifier may contain special characters, it must be enclosed in quotes, in quotation marks, double quotes. So let's look at the searching and downloading of records with Web Services Lite or Expanded. The search syntax is similar to how you would use the advanced search option on the Web of Science online at webofscience.com. If you're familiar with searching the Web of Science, we have an advanced search feature, in which case you use two-letter tags and you can build out sophisticated queries using these two-letter tags and Boolean operators. Well, that is how you search our APIs in the exact same way. So I have an example here of a researcher. A good use case that we have is searching by author name and our organization enhanced field. And so the example here is Korma, and as our author, as you search in the Web of Science, is last name, comma, first initial with the star, and then the org enhanced. Or you could use the author identifiers. But here is a list of the popular tags used with searching the Web of Science data using the APIs. And again, I can provide all this documentation to the team over there so that this can be freely available to everyone. The Web Services Lite API returns 12 metadata fields in XML. The Web Services Premium or Web Services Expanded returns almost all full record metadata as the record would be seen on the webofscience.com. And we will go into the fields in the coming slides. For links, article match retrieve, the data is a bit different that we supply back to the customer. Whereas with the Web Services Lite and Web Services Expanded, we return a lot of bibliographic metadata fields. Links AMR actually specializes in returning a few fields, but it also returns links that you can put on in your institutional repositories, in your evaluation systems, on your websites that will link you back directly to the Web of Science so that you can do further search and discovery. And the Links AMR is able to run against Web of Science Core Collection, the Data Citation Index, and journal citation reports in where we would link you to the impact factors of a journal that you specify. The article, the record data that's returned via Links AMR is time-cited counts, the Web of Science unique identifiers, a DOI, and a PubMed ID. And then, as I stated earlier, the specialty of Links AMR is to provide you those links back into the Web of Science for further search and discovery. So you have a source URL, you have the citing articles. The articles that have cited that record, there's a URL to list all those. Related records, and for DCI, we actually have the repository URL where that data is stored in the data repository. And then for the JCR, we have links to either, if you're in legacy, which is going away soon, you get to that trend graph. But for linking onto the new platform, the insights of JCR, you get a very valuable, much more data because you link directly to that home page, which gives you many years worth of impact factors for that journal. This is kind of a busy slide, but basically to request data from Links AMR, you can actually give us, if you don't have a unique identifier from Web of Science or a DOI, you can actually supply us with all sorts of metadata for a particular record, and we will actually go in and do our best to match which record you're looking for and provide you the time-cited counts, the DOI, the PubMed ID, and those links back. So let's look at the fields, which I know this is probably a big question on everyone's mind, is what data do I get back? What fields do I get back from using Web Services Lite in conjunction with the Links AMR? So on the right-hand side, you will see the list of fields that are returned by both services. So if you're using Web of Science Lite and Links AMR together, this is a great solution for institutional repositories because what you can do is use Web Services Lite to search and retrieve records from your institution. As I showed in the example, you can use author names and your org enhanced, or you could just use your organization enhanced value from the Web of Science, and you can pull back a list of all records that are associated and attributed to your institution. So you can do that with Lite, and you would get these 12 metadata fields back. You would get the unique identifier, the title, the issue, pages, the publication date. You would get the DOI, and a lot of source information, the authors and the author keywords, as well as any researcher IDs of your authors, any of those type of identifiers. But what you can then do is actually, when you get those DOIs back or the unique identifiers, you can plug them into Links AMR and quite quickly and more efficiently than using Web Services Lite, you can get the time cited counts for each of those records in from your institution, and that is a very valuable way of using both of them together. You can update time cited counts quickly and more efficiently using Links AMR, and then, as I stated earlier, you can get all those URLs back into that point you back to the Web of Science for any type of further discovery. And then also you can provide links to JCR as well to the impact factor, so that your users can look at the impact factor of the journals in which your institution is publishing in. If you decide to use Web Services Expanded, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the additional fields that you get in with Web Services Expanded. So you would get all the fields from using Lite plus these additional fields, which are quite valuable. You can get funding data. You get full author addresses and affiliations that are linked to each author. In Lite, you get authors and in kind of a text string, but here in the expanded version, you actually get linked authors with addresses, which really allows for the great ability of tracking a researcher from your institution throughout his entire career, from where he came from and where he's at your institution. You get, I'll just point out some valuable data. You get ORCID IDs now. If your authors have an ORCID ID, with Expanded you would actually get not only the researcher ID, but you would also get their ORCID ID as well. You can get subject categories, so you can look at tracking performance of your areas of research within your institution. And there's all the fields listed there. You can also use AMR as well with Web Services Expanded, because you still get the unique identifier, which allows you to run Links AMR without having, for the records you already have, you can run Links AMR to get real-time citation counts for the records in your repository. And again, the full addresses, full affiliations, provided an improved ability to track your author output throughout their entire career. We've recently introduced a new API called for Insights, the Insights API. The Insights API allows customers with an institutional repository or a research evaluation system to integrate high-quality indicators of research excellence into their system. So integrating Insights metrics provides within your institutional repository, just provides that added value of your Insights subscription. So now you don't just have to go online and get your data. You can actually download those metrics and put them right side by side with in your institutional repository with those records. And that's just a great added value for your subscription. The nice thing about the Insights API is it is a RESTful API. The Web of Science, Lite, Expanded, and Links AMR are not RESTful APIs, but the new Insights API is a RESTful API that has two functions. It has an institutional API key search and a document UT search. Let's look at the institutional API key search first. The nice thing about the institutional key is that the user can download, again, it's based on that org enhanced value, but we assign you a key, and all you have to do is enter the key, and you get every record that's attributed to your institution. I will show you how a RESTful API works a little bit later on. So basically what you would do is you would input your key and the years that you want to search, and you click go, to put it simply, and you get all the metrics for your institution, all the document level indicators and metrics for each record from your institution. We also provide a UT search, which actually adds the ability to look at specific UTs. So maybe there are some papers that you want, again, from authors that are at your institution now, but before we're publishing, they weren't at your institution. They were affiliated with another institution. Well, you can actually use this UT search that, again, you can get the UTs from using the Web of Science Lite or Premium or Expanded API, and you can plug those UTs into the Insights API to get document level indicators and metrics for those papers that were produced by your authors that when they were not affiliated with your institution, before they were affiliated with your institution. Here is a list of the Insights API indicators that you get back. You can retrieve the accession number or the UT, which is again similar across all the APIs, the UT, the unique identifier of the article. You would get the document type. You would also get the time cited count from the Insights API, but you can get the metrics of journal expected citations, journal normalized citation impact, the journal impact factor, the category expected citation rate, the percentile, the category normalized citation impact, and then certain types of flags. So is it ESI highly cited? Is it a hot paper? Do you have international collaboration for that paper? Do you have institutional collaboration? Is this an open access article? So those are the types of indicators that you can retrieve back from the Insights API. And I won't spend too much time on Sushi, as that's kind of the fifth API that we offer, because Sushi is quite limited, obviously, only to usage data. So, excuse me, Sushi stands for Standardized Usage Statistics Harvesting Initiative. And basically, the Sushi API allows you to automatically download counter-compliant usage reports. It is a free service for your administrator. Again, we only, it's only granted for that administrator who, from the institution, to be able to download their usage reports in a more efficient way than using the Web of Science usage reporting system. It allows you to easily import that data into your systems to calculate return on investment and things like that. So, Rachel, I think I will stop there for a second before I head off online to do some live demos. Is there anything? Is there any questions or anything we should talk about before I go into that? Okay, if not, I will go ahead and launch into some live demos.
Rob?
Yeah.
Rob, can you hold on, please?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm just going to ask the attendees if there's a question. Okay, so there is a question from Chantal. She asks, what happens if the institution is not a university that has a unified name in Web of Science?
Yes, that's a good question. You can search on the address and maybe use an advanced type search syntax that would get variations of the name of the address of your institution, or we can take requests for adding organization-enhanced values into the Web of Science. It would take us a little bit of time to review the request and to then unify all the papers within the Web of Science that can be attributed to that address, but we do that quite often. We're able to do that, and what we would need is for the institution, the administrator of the institution, to provide us the name they want us to use, and we can do that. And once that has all been taken care of and unified, all the records unified, the organization-enhanced value will show up, and they can start searching on it.
Great, thank you. Any más preguntas, more questions? Más preguntas, puedes escribir en español o en inglés, yo puedo traducir, pero si alguien tiene, ok, tenemos una pregunta en inglés, en español. Okay, let me read it and then understand it. Okay, so Rob, we have a question from Anna, and she wants to know, can you show the results of the implementation of the different APIs of which you have talked about?
Yes, I am planning on doing that during the live demo.
Oh, okay. Entonces, Ana va a mostrar el resultado durante la presentación directamente, ¿ok? ¿Alguien más con dudas o preguntas? Okay, I think, Rob, you can now continue with the live demo.
Great, thank you very much. Since the question from Anna, I believe it was, what does this kind of look like when using the APIs in some type of repository system? Actually, I will jump into that before I do any very technical type demos. And with the help of my colleague, Miguel Garcia, thank you, Miguel, if you're on the phone, thank you very much. Miguel created a nice example of what do all these APIs working together look like to a customer who may be wanting to implement these into institutional repository or an evaluation system. So what we've done is we've put together a nice little example here. And what we'll do is we'll start out by using Web Services Lite to search for this title, which has this DOI. We've probably searched for the DOI. So in the background, technically, we've probably done a search for DOI equals this. And what you would get is when you use Web Services Lite to search that DOI, this is what you would get back. And the data comes back in XML format, which I can show you. We've just kind of ingested that onto a website to kind of mirror what you might see when you're using the outcome of using these APIs. So when you're using Web Services Lite, as you can see, we've color-coded it in blue. This is the information you would get. We had the title, we had the DOI already. You would get the authors with their researcher ID if they have registered with researcher ID. You would get the keywords, the author-supplied keywords. You get the journal, obviously the year it's published. You have your issue, all your kind of journal, your data, article, metadata, and you would get your UT, your Web of Science Unique Identifier, along with the ISSN. Now, if you were to use Premium or the Expanded, we're kind of in the midst of changing names, so sorry for using a couple different names here, but Web Services Premium or Expanded, now, as you see in red, this is the kind of data that you get back. We had the authors. You would get the authors back. Remember, Web Services Premium is the light fields plus additional value. So now you get email addresses, and for your authors, you get here. You'll see this this link. I'll highlight it right here. 1 and 2. This is the author sequence. The sequence that the author was on the paper. Are they the first author listed? Are they the second author listed? Plus, it will also allow you to link to any type of addresses that might be there as well. You also are able to get ORCID IDs. If the author has also registered in ORCID, you get these ORCID IDs. You see you can get the time cited counts, and here's your addresses as well, linked here, 1 and 1. So your addresses are now linked, and you have your org enhanced values as well. So these are the author. This is as the address as shown on the actual record, and then we've added obviously the org enhanced, organization enhanced value as well. You'll get the publisher. You'll get the document type. Is it a journal article? Is it a book? Is it a book chapter? You get your subject category, your language, some of your other ASCA categories, which are very useful if you're looking at research output in your different departments in your institution. You get Keywords Plus, and you would also then actually get the abstract. This record actually does not have funding data, but if it did have funding data associated with it, you would get funding data as well. And I can actually show you that when I actually do the technical demo and show you the raw XML that you get returned. If you were then to add links AMR on top of that, you now start to get your time cited value, which you do get in the expanded or the premium version as well, but the AMR allows you to more efficiently get up-to-date, live, real-time, week after week when we update weekly. You can get those real-time time cited counts much more efficiently with AMR. And now you start to get your links back to the record. So let me see here. Here it is. And this is the record now that we were using the API for, and here's a link back to the record metadata. And the other thing is you can actually see the 14 times the 14 citation papers that have cited the article that we're looking at. So here's the list. And so what you can do is, this is a free preview, but if this record is within your Web of Science Core Collection subscription, you have full functionality to continue your search and discovery further on of other articles that may be related and associated with the article you're looking for. So let me just get back to where we were. I apologize for that. And so that's links AMR. Now, if you take that unique identifier right here and plug that into the Insights API, now you can start to, now you add further value with the journal, with the document level metrics and indicators. So your journal expected citations, the impact factor, normalized citation impact, and then your percentiles, and the flags here, yes or no, if they're a hot or a paper or highly cited paper, along with any type of collaboration or open access. So that quickly at a high level, walking through one example, is the value that you get for each record within your institutional repository using the APIs. Rachel, I can stop there if there's any questions.
Okay, let me ask the participants. Más preguntas para Rob. More questions for Rob about this. Puedes escribir en español o en inglés, me da igual. Pero hasta este momento hay preguntas o dudas. Let's just wait, Rob, to see what the response is.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got a question from Cristina. So, bueno, I'll read it in Spanish and then I'll translate. So, Cristina, así tenemos que elegir qué API o API necesitamos. So her question is, so they have to decide which API they want. That's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, sí, Cristina, entonces tenéis que elegir qué tipo de API que queréis. Where, Christina asks when it will be available. Once you've made that decision, I suppose.
Yes, all of these APIs are currently available now, and once a request has been made to entitle, it usually takes us 2 to 3 business days to process it and return to them the credentials that they need in order to authenticate and use the API.
Well, hello.
Okay.
Hola.
Hola.
Rachel?
Sí.
Sí, Sebastián aquí. Maybe I would just need to specify, so some are available, others are not. So
Okay, go on.
I think I would need to answer that. Para clarificar, si el Web Service Lite y el Article Match Retrieval son ahora mismo web services que podéis pedir escribiendo, bueno, a Rachel o a Faceit o a yo mismo, pero bueno, por el chat puedo dejar mi correo electrónico y se trata de pedir activación y ya está, y a través de la Faceit o directamente a través de la Faceit lo podéis pedir. El Premium y el API de Insights son cosas relacionadas a Insights. Y eso por defecto no lo tenéis con la licencia Faceit.
Sí, porque Sebastián, Cristina acaba de preguntar los métricos y citas que son de Insights API. Entonces, esto no es gratis, no es un coste adicional. Bueno, puedes explicar esto, ¿no?
Sí, pero creo que no es el tema de hoy. Realmente hoy se trata de formar y enseñar a todos esos web services, y efectivamente ya con el Web Service Lite acumulando con el Article Match Retrieval se permite recuperar los datos básicos de los registros e incluso las citas desde el Article Match Retrieval. bueno, el uso básico es aquí. Para hacer bibliometría y entonces y manipular datos completos, efectivamente entra, es otro ámbito, es Insights.
Sí, es Insights. Vale, gracias. ¿Alguna duda más de los asistentes? Any more questions for Rob? Okay, Rob, so if you can continue, if you have more content to show.
Sure, thank you. I can take about 10 minutes or so to run through some of the technical aspects of what you'll see when we use the API and the XML data that's returned. So I will go ahead and dive in.
Sorry, while you're doing that, someone just asked, can the information in Spanish be returned?
Yes, if the record is in Spanish, I don't believe there's any localization through the APIs as there is on the Web of Science. So that if that's what they're asking for, then the answer would be no. The data would be returned as it is in our database, which would be in English, and it's not localized. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, well, yeah, continue.
Great. So I'm just going to quickly review some of the aspects that I talked about in the presentation from a technical aspect. What we've done for purposes of demos is created our own kind of sandbox client. So this is not, it's based off of SOAP and SOAP UI, but it's not SOAP, it's not Python or the R programming language that I talked about. It's not SOAP UI, but it's a version of that we've done internally to make it a bit easier for demo purposes. So again, if we go back to thinking about how we actually use that API technically, the first thing, there's a sequence of actions that we need to do, and the first one is to authenticate. So I will go ahead and authenticate, and what you do is you get the session ID, which is right here. Now, our client that we've built actually allows me to quickly update the session ID into my client. What the user has to do, remember, is that your clients don't typically automatically update the session ID, so you have to make sure that session ID gets copied, or you put in the functionality to copy that session ID, and it should be in quotes. But our client kind of has been built that way. So we've authenticated, now we have a live session. And what we can do is I will go ahead and search for, using Web Services Lite first, I will search Web of Science. And this is the kind of SOAP envelope request that you could produce when you want to use the API. You'll see that you have a database ID, which is Web of Science. This is for the Web of Science core collection, but our database ID is simply WOS. And then you can use the query. This is where you insert your query string. Now I will actually run the example that I used in my PowerPoint slide. There is a way to specify which editions of the core collection you want to search by. There is a date range that you would want to make sure your entire subscription using the date range that you have. and then there's a record count. Now, this record count can be anywhere from 1 through 100. I will do the first 20 because in the APIs, technically, you can only download 100 records at a time. You can only see 100 records at a time. And so our technical documentation tells you, well, if there's more than 100 records, how do you go about doing that? So that is available upon request. And again, I'll work with the team over there, Rachel and Sebastian, to kind of get these tools, these documents to you. But if you do that, then you can, we have everything set up in our request. We send the request, and now we get the XML, the Web Services Lite XML back. And this is the kind of data that you will get back. Now, what I've done, and bear with me for 1 second. I've actually already taken that that response and put it through an XML reader. I have access to XML Spy, and this kind of formats my returned XML nicely. And you'll see that for our search, we've found 826 articles. We searched over 6 million articles in the Web of Science core collection. We matched 826, and this should be about the first 20 articles. And you'll notice that each article, each record return starts with a record and the unique identifier. And so that's how you can separate the 20 records that I requested to download. And then within there, so you'll see the elements of the Web Services Lite fields that are returned. You have your title, and again, all these nicely formatted at the XML nodes, and you'll find all the metadata in there. For these articles, we'll have the source title tetrahedron. You'll have your list of authors on here. You have your author contributors and their researcher IDs, because that's all that the Lite version returns. And you'll have your DOI here. You have your ISSN, and then your next record comes up, and it's there. So that's kind of on the back end before you pretty it up, if I can say that, nicely on a website. This is the kind of data the raw data you'll get back in XML. Now, what we can do is take that same query and search using the Premium API or the Expanded API. And let me use the same type of query here. Change my dates to current, and again, I will request 20 records. And we send this request through here. Hopefully my session hasn't timed out. And now we start to see, you'll see the difference here in the XML returned. Now you've got a lot more data, XML data returned. And as I did before, I'll show you this. I've gone through formatting it and opening it in an XML reader. And now this is for the Web Services Expanded or Web Services Premium API. Again, 826 records found. But here's, again, each record. Each new record has your unique identifier first, but now you'll see all the additional value that the Expanded API gives you back. You'll have your collection, your database, it's WAS. It's actually from the SCI edition. Now you have all sorts of metadata returned. Issued, your journals. You have. Does it have an abstract? Yes. All sorts of different data. Here now you have your source information, your tetrahedron. But if you we provide all the variants. So if there's a different variant of an 11 character abbreviation versus the 29 character abbreviation will return all those source variants. You have your title, and then here's where you start to get, here I'll just highlight it real quick so you know where I'm looking. Here's where you start to get that increased value on your authors. You can see that he is the reprint author. You have full names. If there's full names versus the abbreviated names, they will all be there. And here's where you start to see your address sequence number, those numbers listed. Here's where you start to get your addresses, your organization enhanced values are there, as it's the preferred name. I'm just going to kind of scroll through this a bit quickly, just to point out high-level value data that you get back. You get your ASCA categories back. You have traditional ASCA, extended ASCA categories. Here's your abstract. Was there any, not sure if this had funding data or not. It might not have. And then here's your your contributor. You'll see your contributor nodes, and that's where you start to get your ORCID ID, your researcher ID, and then here's the author with the full names and things like that. Now, and here's the additional value of the DOI. The other one did provide the DOI, but here we actually do have a DOI or the cross-ref DOI if they happen to be different values. So that's actually a lot of the additional value that you get using the expanded API. Then the third sequence then, as I said, would be just a closed session. So once you've finished all your work, you can close your session and then you've logged out. Your session has ended. And so that's how you can use the Web Services Lite and Web Services Expanded. I'll quickly go over, we have another client we built in for Links AMR. And I'll just show you, this is a client we've created. I believe this DOI here is from someone who I may have registered. I want to say Christina might have been her name. But here is a sample link, the Links AMR request. On this side, this is what you do is you can use username, password here. You send that in the request. You're looking at getting time cited, UT, DOI, and all the URLs. And then what you do is you say, here's this site one is, here is the article I'm looking for. And you send the response. And here you get the XML. And again, bear with me, I believe I have, yes, a DOI sample. I put through an XML reader, and here's the data you get with Links AMR. You get the related URL for related records. You get the PMID value here. You have your time cited, your Web of Science unique identifier, UT. Here's the DOI. And there's the source URL and the citing articles URL. And that is the Links AMR. And I had another sample. Oh, this was actually searching using ORCID ID. I searched using this ORCID ID from Mr. Alberto Soriano Maldonado. And here are the 11 records that we found using his ORCID ID within using the, obviously, the expanded premium API. And I believe this actually did have some funding text to it, so I can show you that example as well. Right here, yes. So when there's funding acknowledgments and funding text, you actually do also get that. So you'll see here we have who the funding agencies, and we also have the grant numbers, and you can also use the API to search for funding against funding text as well. And I will just, I know we're running up the time here, so I want to leave time for some more questions. The last API is the Insights API, and I told you it was a RESTful API, and I'll show you what that means. Here we have a sample developer key, and this is that institution key, and I'm having a hard time, sorry, copying and pasting this. I don't know why. There we go. The interesting thing about a RESTful API is that basically you can input fields that you want, and we go ahead and build the query for you. You don't actually have to build the query at all. We build it for you. So in this instance, I'm going to do a get the article metrics, get document level metrics by institution ID, and I'm going to use this institution ID. So what we can do is paste this institution ID in. I'm going to say year 1990. We're going to do 100 records, and I'm going to start with record 1. And here you go. Here's your actual API request. You can see it right here that uses the endpoint URL. We have our key. It plugs in our key for us. We have 1990, 100 records starting at record 1. And I'm going to go ahead and send the response, or sorry, send the request. And we get the response, and we've kind of prettied it up here. And here is the XML response that comes back. You'll see that we have the unique identifier, which you've heard me say a lot, UT, unique identifier. And the reason I say that a lot is because all these APIs, all the data that's returned by these APIs can all be linked based on the Web of Science unique identifier. You can take all this XML data from all these APIs and link them all together using the Web of Science unique identifier. And here you go. You have all your article level metrics for this identifier. And then as you scroll through here, as I'm looking at this box right here, you can see this is the XML. So each record starts with the record identifier, and you get the document level metrics. So technically, that is how you can use all the APIs. Rachel, I will go ahead and stop. Hopefully that was valuable, and we can take some questions.
Wow, really, really interesting. Thank you so much. Ok, entonces a todos los asistentes hay más preguntas. A Rob, de lo que han visto, puedes escribir sus dudas en español o en inglés y vamos a tratar de las preguntas. ¿Hay? Bueno, esperamos. Okay, let's just wait, Rob. Give people time to think. Still waiting for questions.
Sure.
No, no hay preguntas. ¿Preguntas de alguien, de cualquier cosa? Okay, so Rob, I think we have no questions from the panelists. Yeah, we can finish. So I'll just make myself the presenter again. Okay, so thank you so much, Rob. That was a really very interesting, and thank you so much for giving us a great explanation of the API services and how we, and how they function and what you get returned from. That's really, really interesting. I'm just going to finish off with a few words in Spanish for everyone. Bueno, todos hemos terminado con la formación. Queremos agradecer a Rob por sus explicaciones, ha sido muy interesante, espero que han gustado el contenido de esta formación. He grabado la formación, entonces a todos voy a enviar la grabación porque tengo sus correos electrónicos. Bueno, muchas gracias a todos, espero que ha sido interesante y bueno, ahora voy a terminar la formación. Muchas gracias y hasta la próxima. Adiós. Okay, everyone, goodbye. Thank you so much. I'll send you the link shortly. Okay, bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.